On behalf of AvePoint and Carahsoft, we would like to welcome you to today's podcast, focused around meeting federal zero trust standards with Microsoft sensitivity labels, where Antoine Snow, Public Sector Solutions Engineering Manager at AvePoint, will outline the role of sensitivity labels in complying with White House Memo M-22-09, moving the U.S. government towards zero trust principles.
All right, so let's dig into this. Zero trust. Zero trust is an interesting conversation, right? Everyone has been hearing about it ever since the mandate, the M-22-09 mandate, and as such, there's a lot of questions about the principles, about the architecture, and so forth. So just to give a quick high level in case there's anyone there who's unaware, right? Zero trust is effectively an evolving set of requirements that is meant to boost cybersecurity and cyber defense, right? Threat mitigation. So there are a couple of key core principles to go over there just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So there's assuming breach, which is trying to minimize the damage of a potential breach itself. There's explicit verification, which is verification and validation, authentication, authorization, right? A lot of the identity pieces on different data points, right? And then there's going to be the principle of least privilege, right? So this is trying to minimize access, right, by giving just enough permissions or just enough credentials to be able to do what it is that is necessary. So that's kind of the general gist of it from a principle perspective. Now, as far as the pillars of zero trust and how that fits in, the pillars themselves are going to extend across multiple different areas, right? When you start talking about information technology and cybersecurity, so you have your endpoint management, which is ever so much more important these days as more and more organizations are allowing, bring your own device or are providing devices themselves, but need to make sure that there's proper inventory and authentication and just security that's applied to those endpoints themselves. You have the network, which has always been a focal point of security conversations, just in general, right? Government or not. The application workloads themselves, right? What's actually happening with the applications, how they're being developed, how they're being delivered, and then of course trickling down into the data and the user aspects. Now, this conversation today around sensitivity labels and even some of the AvePoint components you'll see is going to stay in a good bit around the data and the user, right? So it's going to be, if I can get my handy dandy laser pointer here, right? We'll be focused a lot in this area. And that's just going to be based off of the nature of how the technology works, all right? Just in general. Now, when we're talking about the data and the user, there's going to be quite a few different components there, right? So you have your DLP, you have your classification, being able to leverage managed metadata for the purposes of reporting, right? Or however that can help you with reporting. Encryption, there's a big charge towards AI and machine learning. So we'll be talking about a lot of these different components today and how those are applicable within the sensitivity label, ecosystem or of purview, right, within Microsoft.